Hey, folks, welcome to another edition of the Mental Health Podcast. I have Moshe here with me. Hey, Moshe, how are things with you?
I'm good, Sanjay. How are you?
I'm doing good as well. It's just been a lot of conversations, a lot of interesting questions, the whole journey has been very exciting for me. And I just have to be grateful for all the people who have taken the time, for all the people who are listening in,
Yeah,
and for all the ideas that sort of come up by having
absolutely.
these conversations.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me over here. And I also have my own podcast related to product management.
Hmm.
And it's a similar idea over there that I learn all the time. I mean, I've done
Hmm.
so far with my co host, Matt Green, we've done about 80 episodes. And
Hmm.
every time we learn new things.
Hmm.
So meeting new people and learning new things, that's really why we do that. So it's great.
Definitely, yeah.
Mhm.
And the first thing that I ask people to do is like give yourself an elevator pitch, right? For one,
Yeah,
it keeps you sharp, and for two, it gives people a perspective of like who you are and where you're coming from
right.
as well.
Yes. Do I need to get into the elevator to do it?
I the choice is yours, but
I'm living on the first floor here, so I don't have an elevator. Yeah, so who is me? Who's Moshe? So my name is Moshe Mikanovsky, and I am um, I'm a product person. So
Mhm,
and when I'm saying product person, I mean technical product.
mhm,
I've been developing software products for many, many years. I started my way as a software developer. For about 20 years, I was being on that side of engineering. And I never really had any product management back then. So I was
mhm,
lucky enough to work for small organizations that I had either direct access or I was able to access my clients and talk with them and see how they work and come up with what is their problems and then come up with the solutions for the problems. So I was really doing the product manager job without even knowing that. And I switched my career to only focus on product management, which is
mhm.
one thing that I really love doing, being that bridge between the business and the clients to the engineering.
Definitely. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, one thing that I've seen sort of evolve in the tech space itself is that, we've formed suitable functionalities for people. You can be a developer now, you can be a product manager now, you can be a program manager now,
Mhm.
and like the distinction wasn't as clear for us when it started. But like, I get what you mean when you say, now you can say, hey, you know what, I just want to be a product manager and I can just work on sort of products.
And
uh,
and it took me a while to figure out that that's what I wanted to do. I mean, I
mhm,
was good at what I was doing as a software developer, and I was a CTO of a startup, and I had
mhm,
a team of developers and other technical people, IT, etc.
mhm,
But when I found out about what product management is all about, I was really like, yes, I can focus just on that and create that value, even if I don't write code.
mhm,
And at the time before that, I was also the bottleneck of creating any code because I was managing a team. So when
mhm,
you have that responsibility, usually you cannot really even focus on writing code yourself.
mhm,
But I was also tired a bit to learn new technologies all the time, to chase
mhm.
over new technologies. And they're like, if you'd ask me to develop anything these days, I probably wouldn't know what to do with all the different technologies that are existing out there.
Right.
So it's I'm very happy that I made that switch.
Definitely. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that part of your story as well.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned your own sort of personal struggles, and today I feel like everybody has their own sort of individual struggles, and that sort of brings me to the podcast as well. Like,
Yeah.
what does sort of mental health mean to you, right? Like, so that's how I want to sort of start this conversation as well. So
Yeah.
here you go.
Such an important question, and it also, I think it's very hard to nail down a specific answer. I could probably you ask me every day what it means. I probably will give you different answers.
Mm-hmm,
Maybe it's based on my mental health that day, but
mm-hmm,
I think that. be content and be happy with where I am, rather than trying to chase after happiness or to chase after other things. I think that's what mental health means to me, that if I'm healthy with, like, I'm happy with what I have, and I'm happy with and content in what I do, and my surrounding, then my mental health, I feel it is healthy. We all want to be healthy, and we most of the time think about physical health. Like, I broke my arm earlier this year, and that was a very, like, just a sudden thing that happened because I slipped on some ice, and you can go back, you can reverse it, but you feel the pain for a long time, and then you go through physiotherapy, and I still, until now, it's not like 100%. But it's acute and it's there, and you know how to define it as physical health. But mental health is more like, okay, am I mentally healthy right now, or am I not mentally healthy right now? So for me, it's really about that, in the moment, and in general, being content with where I am in life, what is my situation, and that contentness creating happiness to me, I guess.
Definitely. And thank you for mentioning that aspect of as much focus being put on physical health, and like how much precision we have in terms of how we diagnose problems, and how much precision we have in terms of treating problems, and understanding what problems we have,
Yeah.
and learning. You said physiotherapy, so that's all sort of coordinated and designed in such a way that
Yeah.
people can get to a place where, hey, you know what, something is not working or something is broken right now, to getting to a place where, hey, I say, I am more or less better than like where I used to be. And
Yeah.
like, and this is something that I'm trying to do from the mental health perspective as well,
Yeah.
wherein like I'm saying, hey, you know what, if you're struggling, if you are in a space where you don't understand why you're unhappy or why you're sort of feeling certain things, how do you sort of go about
Yeah. Yeah.
dealing with those emotions as well?
It's
So
actually, it raises, to me personally, as a product manager, it raises a very interesting point, because to me, mental health and what you said about all those things we know about physical health, because physical health is something that historically has been dealt with much longer time, and much more in depth, and there is so many areas of the physical health where mental health until recently wasn't even recognized as an issue. Like, many cultures has taboos about it. I grew up in a culture that had taboo about it when I was younger. And because it's such a new thing, and it's very hard to point, where is the problem and stuff like that, I guess there is less acceptance, and you still have to deal with understanding it. Product management is actually quite similar to that, and because in the area of technology, software development and IT in general and hardware in general has been there from the beginning. It's just been developed so much, and the processes have been developed so much, that there is a lot of knowledge and know-how, and people know exactly what to do. Even still, it's still been developed. But when you're talking
right.
about product managers, I've been asked this week, what is the biggest struggle that product managers have? And I would say biggest struggle is people not understanding why they need us. And it's like that parallel between physical health and mental health, and technology in general and product management kind of struck me when you said that. So I'm
Wow. Yeah.
going to use this analogy in the future. When people ask me about what is product management, I will tell them it's like mental health. People don't really understand it yet.
Definitely. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that was such a beautiful analogy. I mean, like, yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I have these conversations as well. Yeah, and you mentioned something about culture, right? And like, I was just curious, like, so can you talk a little bit about your own culture and your own
Yeah,
history, and like, your own sort of transition
yeah,
to where you are as well?
yeah. So I was born and raised in Israel,
Mm-hmm.
and Israel is a Jewish country, the only Jewish country out there. And I was also born and raised Orthodox Jewish, which has very specific rules and specific way of living. There are many flavors of Orthodoxy Judaism. So there is more liberal and modern, and there is more conservative and very ultra Orthodox. If you know, like the people that wear black and Hasidim or stuff like that. So there is also a lot of flavors there. I was kind of like more toward the modern end of things. So for example, we had a TV at home and stuff like that. I went to the army, where some people that are more like to the extreme end of things, they will not have a TV, they will not go to the army and things like that. But in general, there is the specific things like I mentioned before. Mental health was very taboo thing. People didn't really talk about it. It's either you're normal or you're crazy, and there is nothing in between. I think 40, 50 years ago, that was also very similar in other countries, not just in Israel. So it's not like unique to Israel, but it might be that in that environment of or in Jewish Orthodoxy, that it's a more close knit communities that are trying to protect themselves. And many times when communities try to protect themselves, they have this protection also against new things like that.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that's my background. That's where I come from. I moved to North America after my army service. So in my mid-20s, I was first in the US, and then I moved to Canada, and I'm still in Canada in Toronto. So first generation immigrant.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I think one thing that I realized along the way is the way you sort of remove this stigma or the way you remove this ignorance is by talking about it and just sharing individual experiences on how you have sort of gone through your own journey. For one, makes people feel like they belong to the community, and for two, it also gives them that perspective that just because you're talking about it doesn't mean that something wrong is happening, or you're not doing you're not going away from your own sort of beliefs or faith-based mechanisms as well.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely one of those things that just by talking about it, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, for sure, or that you're changing anything. But it also normalizes things for people. So I look at the young generation today. My kids, they're young adults, and in their generation, not talking about these things is the bad thing. So it's like it's upside down. It's really 180 degrees. Where if they, if someone is not talking about mental health, or someone is not, many times we're joking. Sometimes the parents, if a kid doesn't have an educational problem at school, then they are not normal, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I totally agree that there is this transition that's happening, but but at the same time there is overconsumption of everything, and like you were mentioning, your sort of attendance of collision sort of conference, wherein there is so much information out there that at times it becomes a struggle for people to sort of understand what to take in and what not to. And so the other thing that I sort of wanted to get at is since you mentioned product management, and if you were to consider mental health as a product, what are some of the things that you can see are the good things about it, the bad things, and some of the unknowns? So let's sit and solve this from a product manager standpoint.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because I always try to think about everything that I do, every project I'm looking at or working on as a product. Like I also wrote a book and I published it. So I looked at that. Okay, this is my product. What do I have to do to make it better and stuff like that. I looked at different projects that I do at home. Like, this is a product. What do I have to do? So mental health as a product. This is a really, I don't think I ever thought about it that way, but I should, because that's in my nature now. I think that part of it, one of the main things we like to do in product management is to identify where the problems are and what are the real problems. So that's the first thing, where are the problems in people mental health, and what is their job to be done when they're trying to become healthy. And then we're trying to come up with solutions for that. We don't try to come with the solutions on our own. We have a team with that. So we have engineers, we have designers. So what are the different solutions we can come up for mental health? And that's where we need to look for the experts, right? So if I would look for an engineer that is an expert in back-end development or front-end development, and here I will look at a mental health expert that is maybe expert at more of adult health or children health, or and also look for different variety of solutions. So I would not just look at one place. I would look at maybe Western and Eastern, Far East or whatever solutions, because they will have, so like meditation as one way that is coming from the Eastern, medicine or Eastern lifestyle or culture, right? And then I will see, okay, so what works, right? What I will do different trials to see, what makes more sense, what works, because different things works for different people in different ways. So I would say, okay, what works? I will do different proof of concepts or things like that, and I would iterate on them until I find the right solution. So that could be like one thing, something that works for one person might not work for another person, but a combination of things. So make it more personalized, make it more. But in product, we always start with what we call an MVP, minimum viable product. So what is the minimum things that you can do to start doing something or start using that product? With mental health, I think that it could be a lot of small things or habits that you can create, or different things. So it's almost like, and that's maybe also the other things that is parallel to product. It's almost like it's a lifetime trial and learning. So
Definitely.
to get your mental health, in check, and then to keep it or to improve it, etc. Same thing with the product. Like I always say, we always say that product management is different from project management, because project has a beginning and an end, and then you have another project and another project. Product management, you have a beginning, you don't know where it ends. Unless you sunset the product, you can go through many iterations of the product, make it better, improve it on an ongoing basis. So monitoring the product is an important thing, and that's where I would monitor the mental health to see, okay, what do I need to improve? What is the data that tells me that something is going on, and stuff like that.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, like I've never sort of looked at it from an end-to-end perspective from a mental health standpoint, but like, I'll just give you some pointers that I got from you. Like, that to start off, we need to define an MVP. So you said, so if it is an MVP, like, it could be some habits, some, procedures that we can do, that we can take either from the Western side or from the Eastern side. And then, I'll look at it in terms of how can we use certain metrics to keep track of, like, how the habits are impacting you, continuously monitoring that, and then and iterate over some of the things that you do, and see if, like, by doing this, are you seeing any improvement, or are you seeing sort of negative impacts of it? And finally, if something works, keep at it, because there is no end, right?
Exactly. And maybe even one thing we forgot to mention in the process is when you define the problem up front, so you see first what the problem is, so you can develop that MVP. When you define this problem, you can also define what are the strategies where you're trying to get to. So you're trying to get to, a balance in life, a healthy mental health. Maybe you're trying to get to situations that you don't go into depression at all, or you maybe one day a month you can go down, but the rest you want to be in a certain level. And then you define your what we call KPIs, key performance indicators. So you can say, okay, this will be my success criteria. This is where I'm successful. And then when I monitor it as I go, I can say, okay, now I'm successful or not, or stuff like that.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, like the more granular you get, the better, because like you said, like, what is an acceptable solution to the problem, and that's up for you to decide as well. And like you said, like the other thing that sort of gave me a parallel in terms of when you said, hey, mental health, the definition sort of changes every day, and that sort of gave me a parallel to the LLMs that are there today. Like, you ask them the same question at different times and you get a different answer to the same question.
Absolutely.
And that was kind of fascinating as well in terms of generating parallels. One thing that I also wanted to ask you was, like, you said you sort of moved from Israel to North America, and one thing that I feel like is a struggle for people when they move to a different country is, understanding, everything that comes with it.
Yes.
Right? Can you talk a little bit about your own sort of experience of, like, how that sort of impacted you, and like how did you go about sort of handling it or dealing with it as well?
Yeah, it's a very good question. When I moved, I didn't move alone. I moved with my wife. So I had, we were each other's support system in a very small unit. And then we were seeking a local community to be part of. So we knew that if we were alone, it would be much harder. One of the nice things about Jewish Orthodoxy is that it's a very community-based type of, culture. So wherever you go, you need to find a synagogue and you need to find kosher food. And the people that will run the synagogue and the people that will be, have kosher food establishments like restaurants or stores, they will live in the same area because you cannot drive to the synagogue on the Sabbath. So when you look to move to a certain city and you are from this background and culture, you will say, okay, what are my options in that city? Where is the Jewish community? And then you kind of live there. And once you live there, you started having this, community really helping you get new friends in that community, and they're very close knitted. So it does help a lot from the mental perspective. It helps with helping with like local things, like where do I find these things and what does this thing means, and where is a more unsafe area of the city that I should avoid, and all of those things. And when we moved to North America, it was in the very early times of the internet, so a lot of the information, you didn't have Google even back then, so a lot of this information was not even very readily available, so you needed that local community to support you. But on the other end, you're far away from your family, you're far away from the language that you grew up with. So there is a lot of this, like, new things you have to deal with, and not have your immediate family support next to you, because they have to fly 12 hours to get to you with the connecting flights, because there is no direct flight, and even just talking on the phone is harder, and so it's all a much more complex thing. And my kids were born in North America, so you have to deal with that on your own as well. In the US, I was with a working visa, and then I had to leave the US because my visa expired over there. So that's where we moved to Canada, and then you have to deal with the different type of immigrations, and then trying to get to be permanent resident over here, and then so you
Mhm.
deal with things that the normal people that are born over there don't have to deal with.
Mhm.
So there is a lot of those things that people don't know when they don't move from one country to another. They don't know what immigrants have to deal with.
Mhm.
Now, when we left the U.S., we were like, okay, we still want to stay in North America. So the options were either Mexico or Canada. And
Mhm.
then we said, okay, Mexico, we don't know Spanish, so it's probably Canada. In Canada, we don't know French, so it's not Quebec and Montreal.
Right. Right.
So you have also the language barriers and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
Do you want to start again learning a new language, or do you want to be able to continue working? And would you have job? Um,
Mhm.
would you be able to drive, with the same driver license that you had before? Do you have to go through the process again?
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things, and everything like that does affect your mental health, and but in different ways to different people,
Mhm.
because you always have this, also, to me at least, an excitement of going to a new place and
Mhm.
learning the new place and finding, what's around, and what's touristy over here, and I could go and see it and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
So on one hand, you have this excitement. On the other hand, you're doing it on your own, and you don't have your other support. And when I moved to Canada, I have to find again this new support system of local people. And again, where are the synagogues? Where are the kosher places? Where is everything? So
Mhm.
it's all
Mhm.
it's all been very demanding sometimes.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, like, I think one thing that you mentioned resonated so hard. Like, people that I didn't realize was that, when I moved here, I saw a lot of my own sort of fellow batchmates, fellow people who came from the same area that I was, tried to hang around with the same local community that they hung around with. And what you said resonated so hard, and I was like, I always questioned that, like, what is my identity, right? Like, is my color of skin, is the language that I speak, or is the way I speak, is that all there is to me, right?
Yeah,
And like,
yeah,
do I just hang around the people that I know of, so that way it gives me that sense of comfort. And I
yeah.
also resonated with the fact that of excitement of meeting somebody from a different culture, right?
Right,
meeting
right.
uh, meeting and getting excited about it. but,
Yeah,
but and it comes with so many challenges, like you were saying, like, you have to do all of this on your own, right? And
yeah,
you have to understand whom to trust. You have to
yeah,
understand whom you can trust, because nobody will actually tell you in terms of
yeah,
where you can go, in
yeah,
terms of the areas you can't go. So
yeah, yeah.
that definitely that sort of resonated
Mhm.
very hard. And
I
yeah.
remember another example. I remember we like to go to comedy shows, like
Hmm.
stand-up comedy and stuff like that. So in the States, we went to what was it? I don't remember the name of the show, but we went to this stand-up improvisation show with
Hmm.
some couple of friends. I think it was in the second year that we were there.
Hmm.
Part of why we like to do it is also we like to immerse ourselves in the local culture.
Hmm.
But to tell you, I understood, even 50% of the jokes, I probably would lie because they were all very local about,
Hmm.
local people, local things.
Yes.
And that's
Hmm.
make you feel like not there yet. You're not, you're
Hmm.
still a foreigner, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I think this feeling goes away more and more and more as you're getting more familiar with the area, and
Hmm.
you see newcomers that they experience the same thing and you already don't experience this and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
my kids still laugh at my accent sometimes. So for some of the words I'm saying in English that
Hmm.
they find hilarious. So it's I think it's very hard to completely become 100% like someone that was born over there.
Definitely. And I was having this conversation with a Harvard professor, and I asked her this question. So I asked her, how important is it for individuals to be bilingual? How important is it for people to know their own local languages? That they come up with, especially immigrants who come up with from different communities. How important is it for them to know and talk in their own languages? And she said, uh, you know your basic form of expression comes with your identity, with the local language that you speak with. And she said, I encourage everybody to be bilingual, multilingual, because, like, it opens up a lot of doors for you. And on the other hand, it sort of gives you higher cognitive capacities to sort of be able to communicate in different languages, in,
Mhm.
different ways to express yourself as well.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the other thing I asked her was also around accent, right? Like and this is something that I've seen, which gradually changes with people the longer they stay here. And I wonder, are we sort of code switching, or are we sort of becoming so homogenous with the society here that we are forgetting who we are, and that we are forgetting
Yeah.
who we used to be,
Yeah.
to make other people feel comfortable and familiar with
Yeah.
the way we speak as well. So
It's a really interesting question because there is a lot of many different aspects to that. I can tell you, just from my specific experience being Jewish, that part of being Jewish is about the land of Israel,
mhm,
and not just the state of Israel, but the land of Israel in general.
mhm,
And Jewish people all over the world are very connected to Israel, whether they were born over there or not.
mhm,
So there is that sense of we cannot lose that connection,
mhm,
and we celebrate, Israel in different ways.
mhm,
Everyone in their own way, right?
mhm, mhm,
And it's I found it sometimes unique in a way that, for example, when I moved to North America, I will not adopt Christmas just because it's a local holiday, because
mhm,
Christmas to me it's a Christian holiday. But
mhm,
I've seen
mhm,
many immigrants from many different countries do adopt Christmas, even though they never celebrate it in their homeland. To them, it's just it's a statutory holiday. It's a nice holiday where you buy gift and you put a tree and you have dinner, which
mhm,
kind of lost the meaning of its Christian meaning.
mhm,
But I, I think that it really depends on a lot of aspects in everyone's life, how much
mhm,
you have that still connection with your original country or not.
mhm,
And then if you have kids that are born in your new country, how
mhm,
much of your original culture or religion or language or whatever it is you instill in them.
mhm,
um, and that's, I know, over time it dissipates, and it does, the you become, your kids become much, second generation becomes much more ingrained into the
mhm,
because they don't have the accent, and then their kids probably will be even much more, and their kids might even forget that we ever came from these countries, right?
mhm,
So it's
mhm.
it's very interesting to think about.
Definitely. And yeah, and we speak a lot about culture, and sometimes the sometimes I wonder, as I assimilate into a different country, to a different, different group of people, I wonder how much of my culture do I want to retain, and how much of what parts of my culture are so important to me, that I don't want to let go of. And you mentioned it so well, so saying that, I still go to the synagogue, and I still eat certain kinds of food, and I still celebrate certain festivities, to remind myself that, hey, you know what, this is where I come from, and this is
Hmm.
what I this is where I belong, and this
Hmm.
is, these are some things that I don't want to let go of, because that is part of my identity as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, um so, I ask people, in general, like on a day-to-day basis, like, what do you do to sort of prioritize your mental health, or, like, to take care of your mental health? What would be your answer to that question?
Yeah, that's a very important question. I learned mindfulness a while ago, so I'm trying to still, if not doing a meditation on a regular basis, which I used to do, but at
Mm-hmm,
least to be mindful about what I do it, and why I do it.
mm-hmm,
So that's, I remind myself all the time, try to be in the moment and stuff like that. I also love yoga, so I love practicing, breath and yoga, stretching and stuff like that. I don't do it every day. I do it like once a week, but at least I have that habit to do. Weekend, I really don't like working on the weekend, so I try to make it completely family oriented and to unwind from the weekdays of working and stuff like that. And if I do things that might be to other people related, it seems like work, like, I don't know, I'm recording my podcast or whatever it is, it's because I enjoy it and it's fun for me, right? So, and then, the having a balance that you really, work-life balance is not just a saying, it's an actual thing. So, going to sleep and sleep enough hours, do exercises when I need to do it. This one is I probably cheat the most, but but I know it's important, so I sometimes I have to force myself to do it. And try to also laugh a lot and have fun, watch comedies or TV shows that make me laugh, or laugh with my family, because that's also, I know it's healthy. So I don't say that sometimes I don't have hard times, or that I don't have low energies or low times, but at least I'm trying to identify it and say, yes, this is a hard time. I had in the past those times, so I know that it will go away. I just have to ride it, and be mindful about the situation, and then try to see, not try to force it. So not try to force to change it, but try to see, what things I can do differently that would probably help me get away from that quickly. So if it is to take a walk, or it is to take a break, or to watch a funny show, or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah. And thank you for highlighting that, everybody has lows. And just because you are feeling low today doesn't mean you're going to feel that forever. You just have to ride through it. And, it is something that people should. I shouldn't say should. I should say the should comes by default. But, I want to say that, this is to be mindful of.
Yeah,
so
and it wasn't easy to get to that state. I mean, it took me many years to get to where I am right now. When I lost my job, I was laid off 3 times in my career. So when I lost my job, well, actually, I would say maybe 4 times. But when I lost my job the first time, I was really depressed. So because I kind of defined myself and as what I was doing, and I was very stressed about the financial situation, how I will be able to support my family, and I kind of try to force myself get out of that situation of the depression. But the only thing that really helped at the end was that I found a new job. So and then I realized, and then I got laid off again a year after, and I knew something that's not the right way to go by it.
Definitely.
So I did a lot to, that's where I went and learned mindfulness, and I learned and did different things. And also I changed to product management because I knew I will be happier doing that. But it everything I said before didn't come easily. So I don't want people to feel discouraged if they hear me saying, don't force it on yourself to get out of it, because I know it's, to someone in depression, it's very hard to tell them, don't force yourself out of it, or force yourself out of it. It's they have to take their own journey to understand it, but they have to make some steps to get it. So they have to want to do it. So as long as you want to be healthy, I think you can do it, even though sometimes it seems very hard.
Definitely. And and thank you for highlighting the aspect of layoffs, because a lot of people are dealing with that today. And I read a lot of posts which said, hey, I got laid off twice in the last year. and the amount of impact it has on people, psychologically, in terms of their own identity, in terms of finances, right? All these things, I think, need to be spoken about and highlighted more and more often, so that way, people don't feel alone, or people don't sort of give up
Yeah,
at different stages as well. um
absolutely.
you know one thing that I'm trying to be more inclusive is, like, I'm asking people, like, when you're feeling that sense of overwhelm, is there a statement, is there something that you say to yourself? And, like, this could be in English or in your own local language, right? Something that you say to yourself that, that, things will be okay. Or, like, and people have told me different things. They've spoken in Greek, spoken in, like, Spanish, and that sort of makes me feel better, because, like, I'm including different people and different cultures
Yeah.
from that.
Well, in Hebrew, there is, people like to say "Yeh beseder."
Mm-hmm,
"Yeh beseder" means it will be fine.
mm-hmm,
It's told in different context, actually,
mm-hmm,
because it could be talked in a context of, now it's not fine, so it will be fine in the future.
mm-hmm,
So don't worry, "Yeh beseder."
mm-hmm,
But it's also sometimes, in the context of, like, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Let's
mm-hmm,
say you have a tradesman, and the tradesman tells you, oh, you want trying to check with the tradesman how to do something, and say, don't worry, it will be fine.
mm-hmm,
So the context is important, right? I think this is one of those things that, kind of, people trying to be resilient in Israel about, like, even if we don't know how to do something, it will be fine. We'll get there. When we get to the bridge, we'll do it. We'll find ways, or something like that.
mm-hmm,
Um, but in general, one of the things that I learned from my therapist a while ago, one of the tools he gave me was
mm-hmm,
so that's not a specific saying, it's more of a tool that I'm using. It's
mm-hmm,
that when you're successful with something, or when something works fine,
mm-hmm,
write it down
mm-hmm,
and have, like, a success journal,
mm-hmm,
because we are very, in our core, people are quite pessimistic,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
we tend to look at the bad things, we tend to remember the bad things and not the good things.
mm-hmm,
So when you are in a bad time, you look at your success journal and
mm-hmm,
you say, okay, I was successful, it's not a lie, I didn't lie to myself, because your brain will
mm-hmm,
try to tell you differently. It will
mm-hmm,
try to tell you, no, it wasn't you, it was
mm-hmm,
someone else, they helped you, you just,
mm-hmm,
you think you were successful, but you're.
mm-hmm,
So, write those success in your journal, and it
mm-hmm,
doesn't matter what it is. It could be professional success, it could be interpersonal success, it could be, creative journey that you go through. It could
mm-hmm,
be going up in the levels in your company or your career, but it
mm-hmm,
could be also on your mental health, like
mm-hmm,
you were
mm-hmm,
successful getting right in a wave of depression, or you were successful overcoming a challenge that you had. Write it
mm-hmm,
down, and
mm-hmm,
then remind yourself later on, and you will see that, yeah, it's actually helping to remind yourself that,
mm-hmm.
you're not cheating yourself. You are actually successful.
Yeah. And thank you for mentioning that. And one other thing that I also sort of heard was that, keep a picture of every time somebody says thank you, or somebody says, I appreciate you, right? If somebody sends you an email, somebody sends you a message saying, hey, you know what, thank you for all your support, right? Just
Yeah,
take a picture of it and put it somewhere. And,
that's
like, when
cool.
you're
Yeah,
feeling really low, just go to that place, and then just look at, like, how many people have appreciated you, and, like, what you're
yeah,
really capable of, right?
yeah.
And you're right, in terms of, like, we being pessimistic. One thing that I also read was, like, for every positive, for every negative, you need at least 5 to 6 positives to sort
Mm,
of flip it around.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
like, you need more positive encouragement, you need
yeah,
more positive enforcement or
yeah,
reinforcement from that standpoint.
yeah,
So, give yourself as much positive reinforcement, and
Absolutely.
that sort of definitely helps you along the way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, the conversation has just been pure gold, Moshe. And I
Mhm.
ask people, like, what are a few things that you want people to take away from this conversation,
One thing to take away from this discussion, or
from this discussion? Yeah,
yeah, I think a few things. I think that
sure, sure.
yeah, one thing was definitely what we talked about, the parallels between mental health and product management. To me, it's
Hmm.
like for other people, what they want to take is you're not alone.
Hmm.
You are, and it's okay to talk about mental health.
Hmm.
And we are here, probably I can't talk for you, Sanjay, but for me, when I was, in low situations in my life,
Hmm.
mentally, I would
Hmm.
probably not come to the show. I would not talk about it like I'm talking about it, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it's the fact that we're talking here and we're very open about it, and we are learning together about, what it is and how we can improve ourselves,
Hmm.
is just a proof that it can be done.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. And yeah, thank you for highlighting those. And a few things that I wanted to mention was in terms of positive affirmations, right? And just reinforce that, and the thing that you mentioned in terms of like your own successes. Keep track of it. Put it
Yeah.
in a journal. Make
Mhm.
sure you look at it when you're feeling low, so that
Yeah.
way you get excited about doing something,
Yeah.
and you get excited from how far you've come, and like
Yeah.
what all you've done along the way as well. So,
I can tell you that over time, I have this. I had it in a journal, these successes, but then I read them so many times, it kind of etched in my memory. So
hmm.
now it's a mental journal. I can just
Hmm.
go to it, open a page, and see. Oh, okay, I remember this success. I remember that success. So it
Hmm.
becomes so much like a habit that you don't even need the physical one.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it almost became a reflex memory of sorts, wherein like
Yeah.
when you are feeling low, your mind automatically switches to that, and
Exactly.
it
So it's a
starts.
really, really cool tool that he taught me, and I was able to use and still using.
Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that, and here
absolutely.
is inspiring more people to be open about their own mental health.
I really
And
hope so, and that's also why I was really happy and excited to come to your podcast, because people need to hear this more and more. I'm sure there is many other places where people talking about it and hear it, but if I can help someone, then I'm happy.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah.